Very good morning, students. Today we will learn nature of contracts. The object of law of contract. Why there is law of contract? Why should you study? What is the main purpose behind it? So, first of all, we can see that law of contract is that branch of law which determines the circumstances under which the promises made by the parties will become legally binding on them. So whatever the promises made by the parties, like I will sell you goods on so and so date, and you are going to, I will deliver the goods, and he has to make the payment. Both the parties have made promises like A and B. So their promises will be legally binding on them. Regarding that, the definiteness is created by the law of contract. This is the main object. So, it determines the circumstances under which the promises made by the parties will become legally binding on them. That is what it is. Now, law of contract determines the remedies. In case the other party doesn't perform his promise, he breaks his promise, what are the remedies available and under what conditions such remedies can be enforced in the court of law. This is what the law of contract deals with. Remedies in case of breach and what are the conditions under which such remedies can be utilized or enforced by the person who is not in breach. Breach means breaking the promise. Now, law of contract is an important branch of business law, and here it affects all of us in some way or the other, because we are all consumers. We consume something or the other, we buy something or the other. But especially it affects those people who are engaged, in industry, trade and commerce. So here trade, industry and those people who are engaged in that, it affects them more. So law of contract must be learned by the people engaged in industry, trade and commerce. Now, bulk of the business transactions are contractual in nature. Like we have been doing several problems on sale of goods, purchase of goods, return of goods. So all these transactions are like contracts. Each transaction becomes a contract. So when they become contractual in nature, that is why we can say that law of contract brings definiteness in the business transactions. Law of contract brings definiteness in the business transaction. That is why we study law of contract. Now, Sir William Anson has rightly said that whatever a person has been led to expect shall come to pass, and what that has been promised to him shall be enforced. Once again, I repeat, Sir William Anson has said, whatever a man has been led to expect shall come to pass. Means, whatever the contract that has been made, he has been led to expect something in that he must get that. And what that has been promised to him shall be performed. This is called definiteness. Now, simply we can say that the purpose of law of contract is to enforce reasonable expectations which arise out of contract. Fulfill the realization of the reasonable expectations of the parties. That is what the law of contract ensures. Now, let us go through the Indian Contract Act 1872. Under that, the first phase we have under our syllabus and the second we don't have. Second is excluded. What is that first one? Section 1 to section 75 talks about general principles of law of contract. These general principles, under that what we are going to study, what are the different stages in the formation of contract, as well as how the contract is performed. If the contract is not performed, what do you mean by breach of contract? And if there is a breach of contract, what are the remedies available for the breach of contract? This is what we are going to study under section 1 to 75. Now, second phase, we have section 124 to 238 talks about special contracts, which we don't have under our syllabus. But these are the special contracts related to indemnity, guarantee, insurance, as well as bailment, pledge, and contracts of agents. This is what we are going to study under the second phase, but that is not in our syllabus. So let's exclude special contracts. Now the next thing, law of contract doesn't profess that it includes the whole gamut or exhaustive list of all contracts, because it excludes some of the contracts like partnership contracts or negotiable instruments contract, insurance contracts, as well as it excludes bill of lading contracts. For all these contracts, there is a separate act for each such contracts. Stop. Nature of law of contract. Now, how nature of law of contract is different from other branches of law. Generally, any branch of law talks about rights and duties of the parties, but law of contract doesn't lay down the rights and duties of the parties, but it defines the limiting principles within which the parties have to create for themselves rights and duties. That means parties only create law for themselves, so long as they do not infringe. Infringe means they go out of the purview or the limiting principles. Means so long as legal prohibitions are not infringed by the parties, whatever the rights and duties created by the parties will be upheld in the court of law. That means decision can be given in your favor if you are not crossing the limiting principles or legal prohibitions. Then whatever the decisions you have taken in the contract will be upheld in the court of law. Now the next thing is, Solving has given a quote. What is that quote? Law of contract is not the whole law of agreements. Means we cannot say law of contract is the whole law of agreements. Neither we can say that it is the whole law of obligations. Why so? So, what does it does not include? Law of contract, what it does not include is social agreements and only legal obligations. Both are excluded. Social agreements, like suppose A says to B, let's go to the dinner in the night. Both agree. But B goes, but A doesn't come. So, B cannot file a case against A because it is just the social agreement which is not having any legal obligation. So all social agreements do not have any legal obligation. That is why they are out of the purview of law of contract. All social agreements. A promised B to let us go to a movie, but A doesn't turn up, so B cannot file a case against him. Like that, all social agreements, they do not have any legal intention, so it doesn't give rise to any legal obligation, so they are out of the purview of law of contract. All social agreements. Second, only legal obligations which do not arise out of an agreement also do not come under the law of contract. For example, suppose you go on a scooter without a helmet and you have to pay a challan. It is a compulsion that you have to pay a challan, but there is no agreement out of it. So it is just a legal obligation. In the court, if you are fighting some case and the judgment comes out that you have to pay so much money to so much person, to such and such a person. So in that case also, you are not willing to pay, but you are compelled to pay. It is just a legal obligation without any agreement. So next, quasi-contract. Suppose for example, you have gone to your friend's house, there you have, by mistake, you have left some of the valuables at your friend's place. your friend cannot use it as if it is his own. He has to return you back because he comes under the quasi contract. So it is a compulsion. Only legal obligation without an agreement is a compulsion, and all these compulsions are also do not come under the law of contract. So what is that comes under the contract is all those agreements which give rise to legal obligations and all those legal obligations which arise out of an agreement come under the purview of law of contract. So this is what you have to understand. And let's go through the last part of it, jus in rem and jus in personam. Under the law of contract, we are going to deal with jus in personam and we are not going to deal with jus in rem. Now, jus in rem. Jus means right. Rem means thing. Right against a particular thing. Suppose, for example, you have bought one red Ferrari car. So, you have a right against this Ferrari car, and the whole world, the people living in the whole world are under obligation to not to disturb you from owning that particular car the way you want to use. Nobody can object for it. This is called jus in rem, which we are not going to study under the law of contract. Okay. Jus in rem we are not going to study under the law of contract because it is a property act, and property act is a separate act and it doesn't come under the law of contract. Now, jus in personam is a right against a particular person. For example, A owes certain money to B. A owes certain money to B. Now, when A has to pay certain money to B, who can claim that money from A is only B and nobody else. So, A has a right against B to claim it. This right of B to claim money from A is known as jus in personam.